Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It's July 22nd, 2024. Great to be with all of you today. My name is Bob Lang, and it's time for our Daily Bites, which we bring to you every Monday and Thursday morning, roughly around 8:30, 8:45 in the morning. Talking a little bit about the markets, what we see, what's happened the last couple of days, what maybe we see happen over the next few days, see if there's any setups coming up. But let's take a look at, we'll talk about the news in just a moment, but looks like S&P futures and NASDAQ futures are up sharply today, up about 0.7% on the S&P futures. NASDAQ up better than 1% today. Dow Industrials being dragged up as well too. Russell 2000 also up a little bit as well too, so about 0.5%. So that index actually has been serving a great purpose for the bulls. It's been dragging the rest of the markets up, save for last week, for the last 3 days of the week, when not even the strength in the Russell 2000 could stop markets from falling. We've had a very large drop over the last 3 sessions. Let's take a look at that over here on the chart, and you can see that right here. We had a big gap down on Wednesday, close to the lows of the day. We opened moderately higher on Thursday and closed near the lows of the day, right on the 20-day moving average. And then Friday, just a disaster on Friday. So the last 3 days have brought the markets down about 2.7% from the highs, which were established last Tuesday. That was a new closing high on Tuesday at about 56.70 or so. So is that it? Are we done going up? I don't know. Neither do you. But you know what? We have to pay attention to what's going on in the markets here. What's important here for the markets to get back on track to the upside would be a close above this 20-day moving average, which is the dotted line you see right here. So that 20-day moving average comes in at about 55.40. We closed on Friday at 55.05. So doing the math, you're about 35 handles below the 20-day moving average. And what does it look like we're going to open up? Well, roughly about 37 handles. So we're going to be closing up, opening up right near that 20-day moving average. So we got to see where the action's going to be. Are there going to be sellers going to be hitting that at the open, or are there's going to be a little bit of a pullback, shallow pullback, and then a rise right back above that 20-day moving average? I can tell you this much: the news that we had over the weekend, yesterday, is probably enough to alleviate a lot of the stress that we've seen on volatility. And volatility has been pushing higher because uncertainty has been coming into the markets, right? What does the market not like? Market does not like uncertainty. So the uncertainty over the election, monetary policy by the Fed, any uncertainty that's overseas with some of the battles that are going on, the economy, inflation, that sort of stuff. Any of these things that don't really have an answer for the rest of the market, then, well, I mean, there's a lot of worry, and a lot of that worry comes out in people buying protection. They buy puts. So now that this news came out yesterday that President Biden is suspending his re-election campaign, and it more than likely looks like Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be stepping in as the nominee for the Democrats. A lot of that, so that uncertainty has been removed, right? We still don't know who's going to win in November, but that is already being priced in if you look at the volatility curve of futures, volatility futures curve for the VIX futures. So that's being priced in all the way out to October, November. So we don't really need to know what's going on there. So what is the focal point of the markets right now? Well, it's got to be earnings, right? Earnings season is here, and we have a lot of earnings coming out this week of importance. We have IBM coming out. I'm looking at my sheet here. We have Ford and Chipotle joining IBM on Wednesday after the close. Tesla tomorrow, right? We have Alphabet as well too. Visa, Chubb, Capital One. Those are all tomorrow after the close. Today after the close, we'll have NXPI, which is a semiconductor name from the Netherlands. We'll have SAP, which is also a European database company. We did pretty well with that one last time. Nucor, Cliffs Natural, Cliffs Energy, Cadence Design. So quite a few names. Tomorrow morning, Spotify, Coke, UPS, GE Aerospace, General Motors, Comcast. So we have quite a list of names, and then we have quite a few more later on in the week, which we'll cover on Thursday morning. So it's all about earnings right now, right? And so what have we found with earnings season? We found that some of these companies have brought out really good, strong numbers, which is kind of expected. This last quarter was a good quarter for some of these companies. But we also have been paying attention to the guidance, and guidance has been sort of so-so. Now, with the stock market having risen sharply over the past 2.5 months, since April, end of April, the last 2.5 months, the stock market is roared higher. The bar is raised for these companies to deliver earnings and guidance, and if they can't deliver the strongest guidance out there, they're going to get chopped up. And even some of these stocks that names that haven't reported yet have succumbed to some of that selling pressure over the past several days. So I think Alphabet's going to be an interesting earnings report tomorrow, and so is Tesla, Visa as well too. So those are a few names that I'm going to be watching very, very closely. I want to show you a couple of the charts as well too. New highs, new lows. This is one that we pay attention to. We discuss a lot on this Daily Bites. But I just put in a line graph over here, and you can see that we're back down into the negative here. Now, what have we always said? We have always said that when we're following this indicator, okay, we want to be in the box that's above zero, right? And you can see certainly since the beginning of the year, we've had good strong prints above zero for a large period of time. Small amount of time in April, small amount of time in June. Now this is the NASDAQ high lows list. Okay, we're back below the box here right now. Now, are we going to spend some more time, a lot of time under there, or are we going to get right back up into the box? So this is something you got to pay attention to as well too. I will be watching this, but we had a big giant moonshot over here. And what generally happens is when we get that overbought, we were extremely overbought on the oscillators. Let me take a look. Let me show you that one in just a second here. When you get overbought like that, there are no buyers left, and all you have left are what? Sellers. So let's take a look at the NAMOT, or the NAMOT here, which is the NASDAQ oscillator. So we got it to a really super high level, about 360, close to it, on Tuesday at the close, and we came tumbling down the last couple of days. So and we're right near the zero line. Now, of course, if we have a strong day today and breadth is good, that number is going to go up from Friday. So we closed at about 23.99, roughly this zero line. We came back down and hit this 50-day moving average roughly on the oscillator and stopped right there. So if we turn right back around and go up, that's a positive. If we sink and get back below zero, we'll have to see how it works, if we can turn that back around right back up again. So these are things that are on my mind here. Also, a very important day on Thursday. What is Thursday? Thursday is the 25th of July. What are we going to have on Thursday? Let me show you. So on the calendar here, we don't have any Fed speakers this week. This is a quiet period for Fed speakers. We have a meeting next week, starts on Tuesday, ends with a press conference on Wednesday, the 31st. Right here, pay attention here. GDP for the second quarter. First look. Now, it looks like the estimate is for about a 1.9% GDP growth in the second quarter, coming off of 1.4 in the first quarter. So I'm going to be paying attention to this very, very closely, along with the inflation data that comes along with that. That's the chain deflator and some of the other data. We do have the personal consumption expenditures coming in for June at the end of the week here. Personal income, personal spending with personal consumption expenditures, core PCE. This is something that the Fed is paying very, very close attention to. They're watching this number here, core PCE index. They're looking for a 0.1% increase. So if that's annualized out, that's about 1.2%. Certainly below the level where the Fed is looking at for inflation. They're looking at 2% inflation, even on the core. This is well below that, and this continues to move the football forward for inflation fighting. by the Fed. And so I think that this is an important number that the Fed is going to be watching at closely and talking about at next week's meeting. I don't believe they're going to move interest rates next week, next Tuesday or Wednesday. I've always been, I could always be surprised, but I tell you, Fed funds futures, let's take a look at it. For next week's meeting, 97% chance that they remain the same. Now, if we go out to September, different story here, about a 95% chance of actually 97% chance of a rate cut. First rate cut coming in September. November, it's about 50-50 for another rate cut. In December, it's much more in line with it's about 2.5 rate cuts priced in for until the end of the year. So nothing for next week that the market is looking at. A cut in September, cut in November, and maybe a cut in December. So, you know, again, this is just the market trying to make predictions about what they're doing. You recall earlier this year, in the beginning of 2024, that the market was anticipating up to about 6 rate cuts. The Fed was not even in the same ballpark as the market. So the market was getting way ahead of itself. And in turn, the stock market had climbed up sharply. And then, of course, what happened was in April, when some of those rosy estimates for 5 or 6 or 7, even 7 rate cuts was trimmed down to maybe 2, actually down to 0 at some point in April. We saw this ginormous correction come in from that move up here. But the markets are still up strongly for 2024. The economy is still moving along pretty nicely. Inflation's coming down. You know, AI is a big thing right now as well too. So we'll see what happens later in the week. Next week is another big week, mostly tech earnings, but this week we have to pay attention to what's going on. A couple of the names that I'll be looking at are RTX, Raytheon, 3M is out at the end of the week. I'm not a big fan of that one. And then also we have Deckers and Skechers, which is retail, shoes and apparel. And then, you know, Whirlpool is going to be coming out. So a lot of big names to be paying attention to will tell us a lot about the economy and where we're headed by the end of the year. But certainly the big news over the weekend, of course, with Joe Biden, President Biden, suspending his campaign is a big deal. We don't talk a lot about politics unless there's a really direct correlation to what's happening with the markets. But, you know, this is an event that we had to really pay attention to and talk about for a moment, and then we'll see how it transpires. Only about 106 days left until the election, 2.5 months. So a lot of time left to go to see how 3.5 months, a lot of time left to go to see how things play out. So have a great day, everyone. I appreciate everyone spending a lot of time with me. We'll be back on Thursday. Make sure you watch the chart of the week, which I'm going to have out on Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon. I'm not sure which chart I'm going to do yet, but and if you did miss the webinar last week, there's out on social media this week. There's going to be a link to get to that webinar. It was a fun webinar like I did last Thursday called the mental game of trading. It was a good webinar, a lot of fun. Had a lot of good people on there, some good questions as well. And if you have any questions on anything that I'm doing or I'm offering, let me know. Shoot me an email, bob@explosiveoptions.net. And if you're in the chat room, I will see you a little bit later on today. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great week. And I will see you back on Thursday. Take care. Bye. I've been searching for the daughter of the devil himself. I've been searching for an angel in white. I've been waiting for a woman who's a little bold. And I can feel her, but she's nowhere.